Wow.
So we're here with Rabbi Howard Berman of the Society for Classical Reform Judaism, and before I get to my question, I want to say thank you very much for being with me here at the Biennial and being with our membership here at Temple Emmanuel, Rabbi. I also want to say you can tell that this guy is very sophisticated in his use of branding. I'm going to come in on this guy's conference credentials. We can see how cleverly he has co-branded his placard with the union's logo with his own Society for Classical Reform Judaism's logo. Right there, there's Torah to teach here. Howard, if I may, do you think that it's possible for classical Reform Judaism, for a classical Reform service to comfortably coexist, meld, exist within the framework of a worship service conducted out of Mishkan Tefillah, the movement's mainstream prayer book today?
I think that it is, because the Society's major commitment is that classical reform is not a relic of the past. Classical reform is a vital, viable voice within the Reform community today. There is Torah in this badge because I wanted to show that within one name tag, both the union's logo and our logo could coexist because we are part of a family. The classical reform is the heritage that we all share as Reform Jews. And a congregation that uses the primary liturgy of the movement today, Mishkan Tefillah, it's a matter of how a prayer book is used, not the details of the particular liturgy. If a service is conducted forthrightly and reverently in the recognition that English is, for most of us, our language of communication, if we integrate skillfully the Hebrew texts and a variety of music, both of the great legacy of Reform music and the best of the contemporary traditions, an inspired rabbi and an open-hearted congregation can form a partnership where any liturgy can be a meaningful and authentically Reform experience.
Let's take, but every congregation should be blessed with having both an inspired rabbi such as yourself and an open-hearted congregation such as mine. Let me ask, just as an example, let's see how, for example, could the ritual of Hakafah, carrying the Torah around the sanctuary, be done in a manner that's spiritually uplifting and not seen as somehow detrimental to those of us who value decorum in the worship service?
There is ample precedent, both within the historic Reform tradition, more so admittedly in its German roots than in the American expression of it, where there was no question that there was always a grand procession of the Torah before the reading of the Torah on the Sabbath. That procession, the Hakafah, was always done with a sense of dignity and reverence and an embrace of the dramatic possibilities of worship and liturgy, and where the symbolism and the motion of what happens in worship can be very meaningful. But many of us associate the Hakafah with the kind of free-for-all cacophony that we often see in some traditionalist settings. And as I think as we were talking about, our British Reform and Liberal brothers and sisters have a wonderful tradition of a beautiful and reverent procession of the Torah scroll, where the honor to the scroll is not people falling over the aisles to reach out in almost an idolatrous way and kiss a scroll which is nothing more than a parchment scroll, but to acknowledge the sanctity of its message with a reverential bowing of the head or of a touching of the scroll that can be done again in a restrained and dignified way. I think for Temple Emmanuel in St. Louis, every part of the worship, including this, should always hearken back to, look at the name we have chosen. Emmanuel, God is with us. And anything we do in worship, including bringing of the Torah scroll out into the congregation, can be a way of living out the whole motto and name of this temple, that you're determined in your worship and in your lives to have God living through you and with you and in your midst. And a beautifully done procession of the scroll can be one way of doing that.
Wonderful. Kain Yehiratzon, Rabbi Berman, thanks so much.
God's will.
Thanks for being with us, and have a wonderful time here at the Biennial.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye.